And in the lives of all of the creator's righteous children, resurrecting this God's on earth. Man, I I don't like YouTube streets. I don't like YouTube streets. I don't even want to be on YouTube streets. But unfortunately, it appears as though in this pro-Black community, which is inside of this white supremacist construct called the United States, we have people on YouTube streets perpetrating to be pro-Black, perpetrating, like they are for the liberation of our people out of this white supremacist construct. But when you see how they move on these YouTube streets, ancestors make you realize that these people is perpetrating the fraud, man. These so-called pro-Black folks on these YouTube streets, they perpetrating the fraud, man. And I really, it's frustrating to me because I understand who we are as a people. I know who we are as a people. And when I'm on, these pro-Black platforms, conveying my understanding of who we were as a people and how we ended up in this situation that we are in today, in this white supremacist construct called the United States, under the bondage, the rule of foreigners, people that don't have our best interests at heart as a people. So I go into these pro-Black spaces and I'm conveying to them the message of Black liberation. Or when I was coming up as a child, it was conveyed to us as Black liberation theology. Black liberation theology, the idea and understanding that in order for us to truly be free as a people, we have to be self-reliant. And the only way that we could be self-reliant is on land that our ancestors originated from, under our own rulers, under our own leaders, not no foreigners. And as I'm conveying this message on these pro-Black YouTube streets, I'm being called pseudo, I'm being called crazy. just all kind of character assassinations coming at me. And I'm like asking, ancestors in me, is like, where is all of this vitriol coming from, man? Where is all of this low vibrational energy coming from, man? Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Low vibrational energies. I'm embarrassed, man. I am very, very embarrassed. I cannot stand before the world and tell the people from the North Hemisphere, people from the South Hemisphere, the people from the West Hemisphere, and the people from the East Hemisphere that this book that they believe in called the Bible, the God that's in the Bible is actually my ancestors from the East African territory. And I can't stand before them telling them that we here in America are descendants of the gods when I see my own people conducting themselves the way that they be conducting themselves on these social media platforms. Let me see here. Give y'all an example of what I'm talking about. So today, I come across another one of these videos from one of the brothers in this pro-black community, Brother Garfield, right? And you see the title, it says Pseudo Enabler Exposed, Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. And then they got the scriptures up there, Second Esdras, part 2, and FBI. I guess that's some other discussion, but anytime since I see pro-black people on these YouTube streets labeling me as a pseudo, and I'm just now actually starting to do YouTube videos, I'm like, it's like my radar goes off because I'm like, let me make sure that these folks, ain't, trying to character assassinate me even more. Because when folks don't want you to hear a particular message, when folks that's working for the opposite team, don't want the voice of a powerful voice in the pro-black community to have a voice, they will start character assassinating that voice. When they feel like a black messiah might be arising among the black people to ignite fire in all of the black people here in this bondage, when they feel like that voice is an upcoming voice, they go into character assassination mode for their white zaddies. That's the reason why Marcus Garvey's movement fell to the wayside, because you had house niggas working for their master, working for their master that was worried about the resurrection. Because trust and believe, these white supremacist seminary schools, they understand this Bible. They understand it the same way that I do. While they allow y'all to be taught, or they allow y'all to be taught that fairy tale stuff in the church. They know the truth. That's the reason why they come after people like Marcus Garvey. They come after people like Malcolm X. They come after the followers of Marcus Garvey. I guess I'm the next one. I guess I'm the next target, unfortunately. But so, like I said, I saw the title on this video and I'm like, oh man, because I did a video last night and I did another video the day before that. And, these dudes have already been so-called labeling me a so-called pseudo in this pro-black community. So I was like, man, let me just skim through this video, man, make sure that, this is not about me. And even though it says Ivan Van Sertima up there, this video is actually kind of about me, because I am one of those that teach that ancient Africans were coming over here to the Western Hemisphere before Columbus. You know, my understanding is a little bit different from Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. However, I also align with that understanding, and I'm getting ready to show y'all the reason why I align with that understanding, and I'm going to prove to y'all that I'm not one that regurgitates information. I have my own mind. I look at information that the PhDs put out, and I do what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to take the meat and spit out the bones. I'm not going to spit out the bones and the meat. So Ivan Van Sertima, you know, is somebody that I can lock arms with, but I have my own understanding as to why I understand, or why I believe that Africans from Northeast Africa were making connection with the Mesoamericans. I have my own understanding. I came to my own conclusions. These people don't have the ability to do that. They don't have the ability to think for themselves. What the white man say, that's what the truth is. If your information goes against what the white man said, you are a pseudo. That's Ank's mentality. That's Garfield's mentality. That's Reggie's mentality. If your information goes against the information that them white folks taught them in them universities, you are a pseudo. All right, so let me play this video, man. Let me show y'all what happened and why I'm getting ready to do this video.
Quantum. It's from multiple sources simultaneously that are reinforcing these things happen. We don't have material culture, you know, cultural evidence. There's no single African artifact that predates the Columbian expedition to the New World that has ever been discovered on a controlled archaeological dig anywhere in the Western Hemisphere. Not one.
Let me stop the show for a minute. I gotta respond to this pseudo. That's just the most biggest pseudo in the history of YouTube. The lie is telling people Phoenician ships were not sailing. Where is the evidence of the Phoenician ships? Come on here right now. I'll put up $100.
Oh, no, don't come up here. That dude is
No. He could come up here if he got $100 right now. Come up here and prove it, and I'll send you $100 if you're right. You could come on stage right now. The link is at the top. And if you can't prove it and you're scared, don't make these pseudo comments in my chat. Get out of here, because you're a goddamn pseudo. What's up, Mika? What's on your mind, by the way? How you doing, by the way?
No, I was listening. I thought.
All right. So one thing I want to point out, right, is in the conscious community, they have these three main people that ancestors have been focusing on, that the angry African ancestors inside of me have been focusing on. They've been focusing on this guy that calls himself Ankh West, aka Bobby Banger, aka God Killer. They focus on this brother, brother Reggie, who was very close to two elders that I had much respect for, Dr. Henry Clark and Dr. Yosef Ben Yochanan. And this brother here that y'all hear yelling at me, Brother Garfield. These three dudes' ancestors inside of me have been really focusing on, because they see them as a hindrance to our resurrection, or to the rebirth of our ancestor society, for the future of our children. We can no longer continue to raise our children in this white supremacist construct, watching generation after generation get worse than the next. We got young people walking around here like zombies because of this environment that they're being raised up in. And Ankh, Reggie, and Garfield are targets of my ancestors. My ancestors is targeting these three. But one thing I was wanting to point out is that in this community, these three people, the one thing they always preach about is, you know, they don't want to hear no pseudo information. They want to hear from the experts. And when they say they want to hear from the experts, they're talking about PhDs. They're talking about people that went to university and obtained a degree, right? But when you have somebody like me that shows up showing information from PhDs, all of a sudden they don't want to hear it. I'm still a pseudo. Even though I'm showing information from PhDs, I'm not coming up with, you know, my own guess. I'm not guess galloping. I'm showing y'all the information that these PhDs have put forth for us to study. And, you know, when you're studying information from professors, when you're dealing with professors, one thing professors are always looking for are signs of original thought. Signs of original thought. They don't want you regurgitating information that they've already verified. They don't want you to just regurgitate their information. Do you have the ability to think outside of the box? Do you have the ability to add to their conversation? Do you have the ability to add something to this information that they're putting forth? That is what professors are normally looking for. They ain't looking for no goddamn parrots. Ankh, Reggie, Garfield. And as pro-black people, we damn sure don't want to be no parrots regurgitating information from white supremacist seminary schools. Because a lot of time, the information that they're teaching us is skewed to keep us blind to the knowledge of ourselves and what it is that we are supposed to be doing. Have you ever asked yourself this question? Why is it that all of these educated black people don't have the education that they need to build their own version of the United States on the continent of Africa? If these people are so educated and so smart, why is it that they're smarts? Why is it that their wisdom, why is it that their education is unable to build a black version of the United States in another territory far, far away from these white supremacists that we see a lot of people complaining and crying about? You want to know why? Because these are house niggas. The difference between a house nigga and a field nigga is a house nigga is only going to teach you what the white man want him to teach you. Just like back in the days of slavery when they was teaching the Bible, the black people that was teaching the Bible with the permission of the slave master was only able to teach what the slave master told them to teach out of that Bible. If they were found going outside of those teachings that the white supremacists or that the white slave master approved, if it was a message that the slave master did not approve, that slave would either be hanged, he would be chastised, or she would be chastised in some kind of way. And that's all Ankh is. Ankh is like a modern day slave or house slave that's teaching the slaves in the field information that the master want him to teach. Same thing with Reggie. Reggie is another one of them slaves that teaches the slaves in the field what the master want him to teach. And the same thing with Garfield. Garfield is another one of them house nigga slaves teaching the niggas in the field what the white master want them to teach. They don't want them to teach the type of information that I'm showing, because the information that I'm showing it leads to black liberation. They don't want you liberating field niggas out of America, man. We need these field niggas to fight our wars. That's the white supremacist mantra. We can't be having our Negro slaves leave the plantation and go build their own society on the continent of Africa. We need these Negroes to fight the wars that we starting on the planet, because they darn sure ain't sending their wealthy children into these wars that they starting, man. They sending us poor black folks into them wars. We are disposable. The black sons of the black mothers are disposable in this country. We are disposable men. That is the reason why we are the most downtrodden here in America. That is the reason why we have no respect. We as black men are not supposed to have respect in America, so they can send us off to wars so we can lose our lives, and ain't nobody really gonna think twice about it because American society don't love black men like that. We are disposable men. So the other thing I want to point out, right, is so you see they got this dude up here, Dr. John. I guess I can't really see. I think it's Dr. John Oden. He's a PhD. And I'm noticing when they talk about source up or shut up, or, they want to get information from the experts, they pick and choose which experts they want to listen to. If the experts' information doesn't support their information or doesn't support what their massa want them to teach to black people, they're not going to rock with it. They only going to rock with PhDs who have the information that the massa want taught to the house niggas, and that's the one that they're going to promote. They're not going to promote the PhDs that go against masses information. And I'm going to give you some examples of that here in 1 second. I'm going to play this video a little bit further. But you saw the comment that I left. Y'all saw the comment that I left. And, he going to get all in his feelings about, me talking about the Phoenician ships. And in this video, I'm going to show y'all the reason why I was talking about the Phoenician ships. Let me play some more of this video.
I heard you say that the so-called scholar, I don't know if he's a scholar or not, but you said that he's a pseudo.
No, not him. Not him.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard you said that. All right.
I ain't calling him a pseudo. I don't call scholars pseudos. I don't say they misrepresented. There's information to prove that they're not correct.
Real quick though, if you look at the screen here, right over in the chat section, you'll see that I left comments in there, right? Usually you'll see, the end of Aquarius Pisces energy. That's what the star and the moon represents. The star represents Aquarius energy. The moon represents Pisces energy. I always put that there because I was born on the cusp. I was born February 20th. I arrived on this planet February 20th. So that's why I always put that star and that moon there. The reason why the eye is there is because, I'm a descendant of East Africans. I have what the scientists would refer to as junk DNA that's left over from the Africans that evolved from panspermia. There's other things, that, are behind why I always type an eye, a star, and a moon. I can go into the whole, Potolo, Sirius B. I can go into all of that, but mainly it's the energy. It mainly represents the day I arrived on this planet, February 20th. But whenever you see that, that's me. That's one of the ways I done left the comment. If you see that eye, that star, and that moon, that's me in the chat. So he posted the first comment that I put on there, saying, no, the actual lie is y'all want to sit there and ignore the fact that there were Phoenician ships that were sailing, and y'all want to act like them ships, was only sailing, over around the African territory. This PhD is up here talking about canoe boats. I'm like, bro, why are you talking about canoe boats? Like, there wasn't no evolution of water vessels, vessels for the water. Why are you acting like there was not a progression? Why are you acting like, the vessels they used on the water, like there was no evolution? But I'm gonna get into that. I'm gonna get into it. Let me finish playing what this dude is saying.
Right, that's it.
Oh, so what you say about his information?
He on point.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying King Monologue is a pseudo. He's a pseudo enabler. So he brought on Camgiverse to come against this guy. But you see, what happened is, that's Rob, you're right. Godfrey Flush and Nick's done made him rich. Yeah, but you see, this is the problem. Whenever we have a discussion, right, everybody is black. So you had Runoko Rashidi, who is like, you have levels to this. You have a John Henry Clark, who is the top scholar in my opinion.
I gotta stop right there. Yeah, they might be black, quote unquote, but all skin folk ain't kinfolk. Some of these quote unquote black folks is house niggas. And then some of these black folks is field niggas. We're gonna have to, separate the sheep from the goats at this particular point. I don't like being on these YouTube streets, but ancestors inside of me been watching these YouTube streets for a minute. There was something that, Brother Morpheus said to me a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, yeah, maybe that was ancestors speaking through him, when he said that people are hearing me in spurts and they not, hearing, ancestors in full. So now I'm on YouTube streets and I'm already having to deal, with this dude assassinating my character, calling me a pseudo. And you know what? I'm gonna let y'all be the judge of that. Because once I go through the information that I have today, y'all make the determination whether I'm really a pseudo or if this Garfield is a house nigga just simply character assassinating me on the behalf of his white slave master daddy. But, recapping what he talking about, we're all black. Yeah, but some of y'all is house niggas. And some of us is field niggas. I'm a field nigga. I'm a field Negro.
Opinion ever in the past, right? But sometimes the top scholars go by what the other scholars around them. They like, yo, they do research and we all cool. So I'm gonna rock with what you say because guess what? You was with us and you use some of my information, I use some of yours, and you think that the person studies and research the same way you do. So you're like, I'm gonna repeat what he said because I think he did the research. So you had Walter Williams, you have the highest level is John Henry Clark. Let me just say that. Then you have the Dr. Benz, then you have the J.A. Rogers. J.A. Rogers at the top two. Then you have the lesser guys. You had the Ranuko Rashidi, you have the guy that does the Egyptian tours. That's I forgot what his name is right now. Pardon me for that. But then you have the lesser guys. So what happened is these lesser guys now are repeating what elders said, not knowing if what the elder said is 100. J.A. Rogers was a hell of a researcher, but not everything he said was 100%. But I'm just saying this to say that we had elders who taught that blacks was here before Columbus based off of the heads that they saw with the features, but that's circumstantial because you can't rate, you can't say somebody's black based off of how they look. But back then, it's like, oh, you could see that they're black. They look, so lookership worked for them. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, I'm just saying to everybody, don't disrespect the elders because without the elders, none of y'all would be researching. So we can't disrespect the elders. I wouldn't have wrote a book if it wasn't for the elders. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't have gone to England and promote my book if it wasn't for the elders. So to disrespect the elders and say, hey, he's pseudo. I wouldn't call Dr. Ivan very certain about pseudo. I would say that I disagree on certain things based off of this, and I don't think there's evidence for what he's claiming. But again, let me take that back a little bit because a lot of people who are making the claims of blacks here in America or Africans here may have not read Van Sertima's book because his claim is not necessarily say Africans came here and this and that, That is not his complete hypothesis or his thesis. You got to read it. And he's basically giving a hypothesis of certain things. The problem I have is when he went in front of Congress and said that Columbus said something that he didn't say. That's my problem with Ivan Van Sertima. Yeah, Leo Wiener. They used Leo Wiener's book, and Leo Wiener was a pseudo, but he had a Harvard background. So when they say he's from Harvard, the top dog, then they're like, yo, this guy must be on point. Now look at this guy right here. Garfield, it's your responsibility to prove Phoenician ships from the north. You made the claim. So if you're saying that I was proved that they were not sailing, how would I prove they're not sailing? I'm not making the claim that they were sailing to here. If you cannot find slave ships, why would you say Phoenician ships still be around? No, my brother. Prove that the Phoenicians came here. Prove them leaving a tomb, a death, writing in Phoenician. Show something. So what are you talking about? Get out of here, man. You're just a pseudo and a liar. That's what it is. You're a liar. I'm not calling you pseudos no more. You're a liar. You have the truth, but it don't fit what you want to go on the YouTube and spew, the lies. It don't fit into that, your mission. So you can't spread lies. Well, let me play a little bit more of this, and then I'm going to get into Ivan Van Sertima stuff.
But Doc, you said earlier.
So, I'm a liar, right? Not only am I a pseudo, but I'm a liar, right? Okay. All right. So he doesn't prove why I'm a liar. He just want to just put that out there that I'm a liar, right? And that's the reason why I don't like YouTube streets. These people come up on these platforms, man, and they be saying stuff about people that be untrue. And then, you know, when you got other people out there that don't even know these folks from Adam, ain't never spent no time with them, don't know nothing about their life, nothing like that, you know, because you have a louder voice on YouTube streets, and you're telling your how many people this dude got following him? How many followers this dude got? So he's telling like 17, I guess this is like 17,200 subscribers. Today he got 603 people watching him. He's telling 603 people that I'm a liar and I'm a pseudo. He don't know me from Adam. But this is what he does. And it's not just him. There's all kind of folks on these YouTube streets in the pro-black community doing this low vibrational nonsense. And it's embarrassing to me because I'm trying to get basically the world to understand who God was, why God fell, and why we are in slavery, and why, you know, the time has come for us to resurrect and come up out of this. But how can I do that when I'm dealing with modern day Judas Iscariots on this low vibrational energy, man? How can I wake my people up when I got folks' character assassinating me? You know, before I can even walk in the room, before I can even open my mouth, as soon as people see me, they're like, oh, there go the liar. As soon as people see me, oh, there go the pseudo. And a lot of people, as you can see, can't think for themselves. Well, he's a liar because Garfield said he's a liar. He's a pseudo because Garfield said he's a pseudo. Right? But this is something I'm wanting to like really highlight. So this is the question I have. Brother Garfield, Dagger Squad LLC. This is a question from the ancestors that's inside of me. Aren't you in trouble with the law for scamming people out of their hard-earned money? And why am I asking that question? Because it would explain why you trying to get $100 out of me, you know, to explain something to the audience that the audience may not know already. You want me to give you $100 up front, and you want me to trust and believe that you're putting $100 up front, and that once I go through the information, you know, to prove what it is that I'm saying in regards to these Phoenician ships, I'm supposed to believe that you're gonna give me my $100 back and your $100 when you are already in court for scamming people. I know that, you know, going to court, that mess costs money. So it's like, what you trying to do, man? You trying to run up your bag so that you can fight your court case or something? Man, I feel like I need to make a track real quick. I'm motivated. I'm motivated to make a track about this because I'm in my feelings. This man done told 603 people on his platform that I am a pseudo and I am a liar. Him and his brother, the God Killer, talking that same mess. I'm a pseudo. Yeah, I'm feeling motivated to make a track here real quick. Holla if you feel me. Holla if you feel me. Holla if you feel me. Trying to make a million. Trying to make a million. Trying to make a million. Hands to the ceiling. Hands to the ceiling. Hands to the ceiling. Break the dollar bill. Break the dollar bill. Break the dollar bill. Break the dollar bill. Man, this doggone money, man. This fiat currency here in the United States, man, they got people tripping, man. Got people doing all kind of crazy stuff. Need to break the damn dollar bill. See if I captured that. Yeah, that's gonna work for me. Hey, yo, if there's anybody in the HOK that know how to spit, you know, they got them writing abilities. This track was dedicated to Garfield trying to run up a bag to pay his legal fees for scamming our brothers and sisters out of their hard earned. That's what I've been hearing. Now how that feel, Garfield? I don't know you from Adam, but there's people out here saying that you scamming people out their hard-earned money. You scamming your people out of their hard-earned money. I don't know if that's true. That's just what people saying. Now, how does it feel for me to believe that about you? And I don't even know you. I'm just going off of what other people said. See, this is the reason why the Bible is important. The Bible talks about doing unto others as you'll have others do unto you. You can't just be out there calling people all kind of liars and pseudos. You don't even know this person. And you don't know the information that you don't know the information that I have, bro. You don't know how long I've been studying. You don't know how long I've been in this. You don't know the family I came up with. You don't know the elders that I was around. You don't know none of that. You just in front of 600 some odd people and the people that's on your chat and whoever else be following you on your social media, telling everybody that I'm a pseudo and I'm a liar. So if you could do that to me, I'm going to do this to you. I'm going to say that you scamming our people out of their hard-earned money because you worship money. The money is your God. That's your God, Garfield. That's what you worship. You worship the white man's money. You don't care about reclaiming Africa and Mother Africa's resources. You don't care about the rape that's going on with Mother Africa. You don't care that our people, our brothers and sisters on the continent of Africa are not benefiting off of the resources that's coming up out of their land. You don't care about none of that. All you care about is your white daddy house. That's all you care about, and making it inside of your white daddy house. So if I'm a pseudo and if I'm a liar, you a house nigga. And if there's anybody in the community that got them lyrics that they can write out, you know what I'm saying, to that beat that I just made, yo, hit me up in my email, man. Y'all know my email, moses777@gmail.com, or, you know, drop your information in the comments, and then I'll send this track to you so you can make a track about Garfield. Especially, I'm gonna tell you who I want to write. If you've been scammed by Garfield and you know how to write, yo, you're the one that need to write to this track. You make a song about Garfield out here scamming our people out of their hard-earned money and whatnot, because he don't want to get a job. All right, so let's get into this, man. Let's get into the information, because he darn sure wasn't gonna let me show none of the information, you know, that I've come across, information from PhDs. Take take my ugly joint off the screen. Let me load up these images here. Oh my goodness. All right, so everything is out of order here. Let's see how we're gonna do this. All right, so the first thing we want. Holla if you feel me. He trying to get money to the ceiling. Trying to make $1 million. Break that dollar bill. Break that dollar bill. Let's do this one. Let's do this one. This one. Also, when it come down to me, man, I'm like, don't just take my words. Don't just take what it is I'm saying. I'm giving y'all information for y'all to go look it up for yourself. All right, let's see. Oh, okay. I see why that's not going. Let's do this here. Sure, I might as well put that on this intermission music while I'm doing this. Turn it down just a little bit. While I'm loading these up. All right. So I'm gonna just run over these real quick. So I'm gonna go back to the beginning here. All right. So I came in with the claim saying that the lie is telling our people that the Phoenician ships were not sailing from Northeast Africa into that Central American territory. And so I want to address connections. Let's deal with connections first, because you said something about Phoenician writing. We're going to cover that, because I don't think people understand what the word connections means, or correlations. Because one thing I don't believe in, I do not believe in coincidence. So right now, connection and correlations, connections and correlations. That's what I'm on. So here's a correlation. Here's a connection. So I asked the question, to TuT-GPT, because, the youngins, they know about TuT-GPT. That's how they doing. They study now. But there are resources for them to get into for themselves, not just go by what TuT-GPT is saying, not just going by what AI is saying. You see right there, it shows the Encyclopedia Britannica, where they can go look it up in a book. But the quick information shows you that, yes, the sun was the most significant divine force in ancient Egypt, serving as the engine of existence and the source of life, light, and order. Egyptians didn't just worship the sun as a single object. They viewed it as a complex deity with different aspects representing the cycle of the day and life. Key sun gods and forms: Ra or Re, the primary sun god and the king of the gods. He was usually depicted as falcon-headed man crowned with a solar disk. And then, there's more to this, but I'm just showing some connections, some similarities, some correlations, because this right here is taking place all the way over here in Northeast African territory. This worship of the sun is taking place all the way over here in Northeast African territory. So over here in the West, yes, Mesoamerican civilizations, most notably the Aztecs and the Maya, extensively worshiped the sun as a central force of life and cosmic order. For these cultures, the sun was not just a celestial object, but a powerful, often warlike deity whose daily journey across the sky required active human participation and nourishment. There's a source for them, study.com. All right. Core beliefs of solar worship. Mesoamerican sun worship was driven by a sense of cosmic fragility. The five suns myth: the Aztecs believed the world had already been created and destroyed 4 times before the current era, known as the fifth sun. They feared that if the gods, and so on and so forth, paid particular focus on that word gods, because what exactly was a god to these Mesoamerican people? Am I supposed to believe that these people way over here in the West had the exact same understanding about the sun, cultural understanding about the sun, that people over here in Northeast Africa had? I'm supposed to believe that these two cultures did not ever meet. They didn't rub elbows. They never had contact with each other. They just magically had the same understanding. No, I stand on the premise that they were taught this. These people here in the West were taught this information about the sun, understanding the sun in cycles and how it interacts with life. You know, that it's a life giver. My understanding is they got this information from all the way over here in Northeast Africa. But let me keep going. Let me keep going. So that's two connections right there. The sun, the worship of the sun. People in the East and people in the West, they both worship in the sun. And Garfield want us to believe that it's a coincidence, you know, that the two of them did not share that understanding because they never met each other. That Africans wasn't sailing over here before Columbus. That's what Garfield wants us to believe. So here's another correlation or a connection. Did Mesoamericans write on the walls of their pyramids like the Egyptians? Yes, Mesoamerican civilizations, particularly the Maya, extensively inscribed their pyramids and temples with hieroglyphic scripts, much like the ancient Egyptians. These inscriptions were carved into stone, painted on walls, or applied to stucco surfaces to record dynastic histories, religious rituals, and astronomical. Okay, let me ask y'all this question, right? Check this out. Where is the Amazon rainforest at? I mean, isn't that a tropical area down there in the Mesoamerican Aztec territory? I mean, don't they got like trees down there? Don't they got like tablets that they could write on? Why are these people writing on the walls of their what? They're writing on the walls of their pyramids. They're writing glyphs on the walls of their pyramids. Ain't that something? That's something, ain't it? Now, who else do we know that was doing that? Why is it that they're writing walls on the glyphs of their pyramids? Like who? Why is it that these people all the way over here in the West, and I'm being facetious when I say all the way over here in the West. And the reason why I'm being facetious is because at that time, I don't believe that the West was that far. I don't believe that this West Hemisphere was that far away from the Northeast African territory. Is this one right here? Did I pull this one up yet? Yeah, comparison of the glyphs. Mesoamerican usage. Pyramids like the Temple of the Inscriptions at Palenque contain massive stone panels detailing royal lineages and historical events. Inscriptions were often placed in public facing areas or the small temples atop the pyramids to commemorate the deeds of rulers. Egyptian usage. Ancient Egyptians inscribed the interior walls of their pyramids with the pyramid text, which were magical spells designed to help the deceased pharaoh reach the afterlife. Unlike Mesoamerican pyramids, the exterior of the Egyptian pyramids was originally smooth, polished limestone, and generally lacked writing. That's not, I wouldn't go by it. This YouTube, Danita, I don't know about all that. But key differences in writing systems. Decipherment. The Maya script is the only Mesoamerican system that has been substantially deciphered, with roughly 80% of its phonetic content. Phonetic content. Who's responsible for phonetic writing? That word sounds very familiar. With roughly 80% of its phonetic content understood today. Script type. Both systems are logosyllabic, using a combination of symbols for whole words. logograms, and symbols for sounds, syllabograms, phonograms. However, they developed completely independently and shared, so on and so forth. They developed independently, but pay close attention to that word there, right there, phonetic. So that's another similarity between these two cultures. They're supposed to be far, far away from each other. They're not visiting each other before the days of Columbus, but for some reason they got these similarities. And we're supposed to believe that that's a coincidence. And I'm gonna get back to that word phonetic. Roughly 80% of it's phonetic content. It's like, you know what? Somebody taught them how to write. Somebody introduced them to writing. And I wonder who that was. Just because it says there, however, they develop completely independently. Development, yeah, just because I taught you how to write, let's say I teach you how to write cursive, right? And you start writing cursive, but I'm not there as I'm not involved in the perfection of your cursive writing. I'm not involved in the evolution of your cursive writing. Your cursive T's used to look like the lowercase cursive T, but now you have determined that I'm going to make a bigger T to emphasize the dominance of the two-letter T's, a capital T and a lowercase T. I don't have to be there for the evolution of what I taught you. One thing I'm not going to do is act like these two cultures did not have a connection. I'm not going to sit here and act like it's a coincidence that, you know, they're doing pretty much the same thing. I'm not going to sit there and act like they just coincidentally was both worshiping the sun. And I'm not going to act like they just both coincidentally was writing on their pyramids. And look at these pyramids over in the Northeast. Not necessarily, you know, the big pyramids of Giza, but look at these other ones. These smaller ones. We can actually call these step pyramids in Northeast Africa. Over here in the West, come on, man, we could call this a step pyramid. So I'm supposed to act like there is no way that these people had a connection. I'm supposed to act like there is no way that these people had a relationship. These people did not ever come together at some point in time before Columbus. These people got glyph writings on the walls of their pyramid. These Mesoamerican people got glyph writings on the walls of their pyramids, just like people in Kemet got glyph writings on the walls. But I'm supposed to believe that these cultures are, you know, just doing these same things coincidentally. Yeah, okay. All right, so I'm gonna have to load up some more. Load up some more of these slides right quick. Do some intermission music. Garfield, are you really going to court though, bro? You really going to court because you ended up in court because some people suing you for scamming them, bro? Dagger Squad LLC, what's up with that? You trying to make $1 million so you can fight your case? What's up, bro? right there. So we're gonna start right here. I'm having to bring up the PhD, Elder Kane Hope Felder, and I'm bringing him into the mix because a couple days ago, Brother Reggie, and I use the word brother lightly because you know he came at me with that same low vibrational energy as well. I don't know why these dudes, they're in a pro-black community, right? They in a pro-black community. They know about Marcus Garvey, bro. They know what Marcus Garvey stood for, but they give those of us that follow Marcus Garvey, brothers like Brother Reggie, and I don't understand what the problem is with Garfield. It's like, yo, they give followers of Marcus Garvey all of this smoke. It's like, where's all this low vibrational negative energy coming from for Moses, yo? Especially when it comes down to Garfield, man. This is, I think, out of the three of them, Garfield bothers me the most because, okay, so my grandmother and my great grandmother, they came up with Marcus Garvey in St. Anne's Bay, St. Anne's Bay, Jamaica. And the energy that I get from Garfield is the same energy that Jamaicans was given to Marcus Garvey. So I'm like, yo, is it wrong for Black folks to want to be separate from white supremacy so that we could be self-reliant, not dependent on foreigners for anything, not allowing foreigners to control our destiny, always having to prove ourselves to foreigners? And the only way that we can feel good about ourselves is when we get a pat on the head from the foreigners. Marcus Garvey wasn't rolling like that. And the reason why Marcus Garvey wasn't rolling like that is because he understood this Bible the same way that I'm going to say that the elder Kane Hope Felder understood the Bible the way that Marcus Garvey understood it. That it's a book that's taking place in Northeast Africa, from sub-Saharan Africa all the way up over into the eastern part of the Middle East, which is actually still Africa. So since the book is about these ancient African people, we have to understand what God really is. So Kane Hope Felder, this is, I'm bringing him into the mix because Reggie accused me of worshiping James Strong. And that was a trip to me because this dude is quick to throw out the fact that he has a degree. He's quick to ask him, do you got a degree? Do you got a degree? But Reggie, who gave you that degree? Is that a white man's signature on that piece of paper? So you basically asking us if we house niggas just like you? Is that what's up? I'm bringing out the elder Kane Hope Felder because he's the reason why I started also doing a research on these English words that's in that Bible that the Hebrew Israelites be trying to kick to everybody, trying to preach to everybody, that these Christians be trying to preach to everybody. It was the elder, this PhD right here, that caused me to understand the importance of that Hebrew Chaldee dictionary and to dig into those words so that I wouldn't be having no crazy understanding about the Bible like the Hebrew Israelites, like Sonetta and Captain Tazariak, like Pastor Bennett and others that have been, teaching this book to our people. So I just needed Reggie to understand that, no, I'm not just rocking with, the Professor James Strong's. I'm mostly rocking with this elder. Kane Hope Felder was an American biblical scholar, serving as professor of New Testament language and literature and the editor of the Journal of Religious Thought at the Howard University School of Divinity. Howard. That's an HBCU, ain't it? Reggie, where you get your degree from? Did you get your degree from an HBCU? Because, you know, yeah, if you quick to ask somebody about their degree and did they get a degree, if you got your degree from an HBCU, you know, I can't even hate on you, bruh. I can't even hate on you because, you know, at least you came through a HBCU. You know, you, even though the HBCUs are supported by the money of white supremacists, you know, the chances of you being a field Negro is fairly high. It's fairly high. Not too many house Negroes, you know, come up out of, you know, HBCUs. I would say that the percentage of house niggas that come up out of HBCUs is like about 40%. And then, you know, the field niggas that's coming up out of there is about 60%. So, you know, you might be of that 60%. I don't know, but the way you be going at me, man, I don't know. You might be one of the 40% of the house niggas that done came up out of HBCUs. But at any rate, so he also served as chair of the Doctor of Philosophy program and immediate past chair of the Doctor of Ministry program. He had been on Howard's faculty from 1981 until his retirement in 2016. This is just a continuation. Institutions, it says Princeton Theological Seminary and Howard University. But do your own research on him. This is a PhD. And what is he responsible for? What work did he do? He is the one that's responsible for this book that I keep showing on Sonetta's channel all the time. Even though I've made all kind of donations to, you know, the super chat and sending money to Sonetta's Cash App, and, you know, he hitting my credit card, you know, for his Patreon, you know, every month. He's not using none of that money to actually go educate himself. He still has not bought this version of the Bible. It's the King James Bible, but the elder, Kane Hope Felder, went through that King James Bible and was pulling out all of the African facts. This is African, this is African, that's African, this is African, that's African, this is this, and this, all of this is African. All of his footnotes all throughout the Bible, all of this is African. That's the reason why I rock with this particular version of the King James Bible, because the PhD went through it, and with his scholarship, with his ability to think for himself, his ability to think outside the box and not just be a parrot regurgitating what white folks done taught him in seminary school. You know, he gets outside the box and you're like, you know what? This book is showing that it's taking place in Africa. All of this stuff that I'll be saying is basically this. I'm speaking the things that this PhD, this elder has taught me just by reading this. So he's responsible for the original African Heritage Study Bible, showing us how to study it correctly, showing us to not just be looking at them doggone English words, but understand that this book is taking place in Africa. And in order to understand what these words mean over there in the African territory, you need to go what? You need to go to James, Professor James Strong's house and look at the work that they did when they went over there into the African territory and studied the language. Also, when it comes down to that Hebrew Chaldee dictionary, I don't really focus on the Greek dictionary that's in James Strong's exhaustive concordance. I'm usually focusing on that Hebrew Chaldee dictionary because that is language from the Phoenician territory. That's the reason why that word Chaldee is there. That's the territory. That's the same area that biblical Abraham is coming up out of and going into the land of Canaan. So you can't just go by the Jews' language, that Yiddish writing system that they came up with. The Phoenicians. I put the question in there because I'm always dealing, you know, with these Hebrew Israelites to get them to understand that Phoenicians were writing before. They had writings about that Northeast African territory before the writings of the Torah. So that's the reason why I'm always focusing on the words in that Hebrew Chaldee dictionary, because it's derived from the Phoenicians. Determining whether Phoenician writing or the Torah came first depends on whether you look at it through the lens of secular archaeology or religious tradition. I want to look at it from the secular. I don't want to look at it from the religious, because this book, the Bible ain't got nothing to do with no damn religion. The book is about people that created laws, statutes, and commandments, and what happens when citizens don't follow laws, statutes, and commandments, and how society breaks down, and what the ultimate result is, what the ultimate end is, what the end game is when you don't follow the laws, statutes, and commandments created by people that understood the cosmic order of this planet, or how the cosmic order of this planet is supposed to stay or remain. And when you don't follow the law, statutes, and commandments to keep this planet in the cosmic order, because remember, it was the cosmos that created the earth. This earth is supposed to operate in a particular format. And our ancestors in that ancient African territory, in that Kushite territory, they understood that because they were manifestations of the universe here on this earth. Physical manifestations of the cosmos here on this earth, and they had an understanding of that which they came from. So these Phoenicians are understanding that, understanding the reason why these Kushite people were writing laws, statutes, and commandments. So I would like to deal with it from a secular standpoint, not that religious mumbo jumbo that y'all folks been learning in them white supremacist seminary schools and at these doggone churches. From a purely historical and archaeological standpoint, Phoenician writing is generally considered to have appeared earlier as a standardized system. Phoenician script. Look at that word, Phoenician. What is the name of that writing system? Is it not called the phonetic writing system? Where do we hear that? Since I've been talking, where do we hear that? The phonetic writing system. From a purely historical archaeological standpoint, Phoenician writing is generally considered to have appeared earlier as a standardized system. Phoenician script, the Phoenician alphabet, often called the ancestor of modern alphabets, the ancestor of modern alphabets. So that tells me that the Mesoamericans, that phonetic writing that they had, they must have learned it from these Phoenicians, because the Phoenician writing is considered to be the ancestor. The Phoenician script, the Phoenician alphabet, often called the ancestor of modern alphabets, reached a standardized form around 1050 BCE, the oldest verified major inscription. Go do your own research on that. Somebody taught those Mesoamericans in the West how to write and where to write. Because remember, the pyramids of Giza were constructed way before the Phoenician age came. So the Phoenicians understanding writing from somebody, they learned it from somebody else. And then they conveyed that knowledge to who? Mesoamericans, before the ships of Columbus started sailing. So I'm only showing this because of the elder that's responsible for this book, this Bible, the original African Heritage Study Bible, King James Version. I'm showing this because this is the first thing that I noticed when I was studying his book, that in Genesis chapter 2 is showing you the territories that this book is taking place in, from Genesis chapter 2:13. And one thing I wanted, this was actually the first map that I saw, because this map that I have right here, is a more cleared up version of this one from around 1611. Remember, the King James Bible was written in 1611, the original 1611 King James Bible. This scripture here, Genesis chapter 2, verse 13, is talking about this particular territory right here. See how it says Upper Ethiopia right there and Lower Ethiopia? Lower Ethiopia is up there near, like, up there in the north. What we would refer to today is the north part of Africa. But notice how it says Lower Ethiopia. And then the south part of Africa, it says Upper Ethiopia. But this is from this is the Ethiopia that the 1611, the King James Bible is talking about. This is a more cleared up map from the 1611 version. And look at where it's showing Ethiopia at. The place that we know of as Ethiopia today, back in the time of 1611, was called Abyssinia. So this book is telling you that it's taking place in sub-Saharan Africa. And if you want to go by the first map, where it's showing Upper Ethiopia and Lower Ethiopia, it's quite possible that this Genesis 2:13 is talking about this whole entire area of Africa. I don't even care that the word Ethiopia is a Greek word. So the what? It's still talking about African territory. These people like Garfield and Reggie and these other eggheads that want to act like they smarter than everybody in the black community. They always want to try to do that magician's trick, trying to focus in on the words too much. Like when you tell them that this Genesis chapter 2, verse 13 is actually talking about Africa, then they want to move the goalpost and switch to something else. Well, Ethiopia is a Greek word. So what? It's talking about African territory, bro. And then Genesis 2:14, Assyria, up here above Egypt, up there where the Euphrates River is. And then, when you get deeper into the Bible, Genesis chapter 13, it talk about how this biblical Abraham settled in the land of Canaan, which is actually Phoenician territory. But the reason why I'm showing all of this, like I said, we're dealing with this conversation in regards to, was there Africans coming over here to the Western Hemisphere before Columbus? I say yes. Garfield on his channel with some other PhD that's trying to teach y'all what they white slave master daddy want y'all to teach us. They don't want y'all field niggas to know that yes, Africans were coming over here in the West before Columbus. And I'm homing in on the Phoenicians. I've already, touched on them a couple of times. I'm gonna touch on them a little bit more to show y'all how it is that they were having connection with these Mesoamericans over here in the Western Hemisphere. But I'm showing you how it is that all of this African culture rubbed off on Mesoamericans in Central America. The Bible is basically showing you that it originates here in this territory, Naphtali, and then, of course, there's the migration down the Nile. And you see it up here where the square is, you see the continent of Africa, and then there's a square up there showing you basically that Northeast African territory. They're showing that territory because this is the central area where the Bible is taking place. This is like the capital area, Kemet and Sumeria territory. But everything starts right here in the Naphtali territory. All right, so now I done went through all of those. Go back to Yo, Garfield. Yo, did you really scam our people out of money, man? Are you in trouble with the law, bro? Dagger Squad LLC. Is that the reason why you told me to send you $100? And then you'll put up $100 so we can debate this topic, whether the Phoenicians ships were sailing over here to the Western Hemisphere before Columbus. You want me to pay you $100 to tell you something, to tell you the truth? You want me to pay you $100 to prove that y'all up there lying to the field niggas? And you want me, if you got a court case for scamming people, why would I believe that you're going to give me my $100 back if I win the conversation, and that you're going to give me $100? You'll find you're a low vibrational person. You would find an excuse to not pay that money. You just like them dudes that used to rob our people back in the day. I bet you did used to rob our people back in the day. You was probably a bully at school, taking black people lunch money, punking them in the playground. You was probably one of them clowns. Trying to make $1 million off of people to pay your court cases. I don't like YouTube streets, man. All right. So this is where I left off at, because I want to point out this territory, Naphtali. Now, according to the Bible, right, the biblical narrative, and the only reason I'm pulling out the biblical narrative is because I'm trying to get y'all to understand it the way that the elder Kane Hope Felder, the PhD, the scholar, understands the Bible. Okay. So you're going to have people in the conscious community that's going to tell you that there's no such thing as Ham. You ain't going to find no graves. You ain't going to find no bones for Ham, right? But when they tell you that, that is based on their white supremacist seminary school understanding of this book. Ham is an English word. If the book is taking place in Africa, you know nobody over there was speaking English. So what is a ham, according to these people? And the only way that you will really know what a ham is if you study like the scholars are studying this book. You're not studying the Bible. Garfield's not studying the Bible like scholars study it. He sits there and he regurgitates white supremacist seminary school information. Ankh is not studying the Bible like the scholars. He sits there and he regurgitates white supremacist seminary school information. Same thing with Reggie. Reggie is not studying the Bible like the scholars. He's regurgitating white supremacist seminary school information. And that is the reason why they're able to push back on that information, because it's white supremacist seminary school information. It's designed to take you away from what the Bible is really talking about. It's designed to take your focus off of these ancient African people. These people know what the Bible is really about. That is the reason why they be on the necks of black and brown people. That is the reason why they try to drive a wedge between black and brown people. Ultimately, that's really what this discussion about, that black and brown people had a connection with each other before the ships of Columbus was sailing. So for Garfield to get up on his platform and act like blacks and ancient Mesoamericans or Africans and ancient Mesoamericans wasn't connecting with each other before the Columbus ships, he's just playing into white supremacists' hands. He's doing the work of white supremacists. The only way that you can really defeat white supremacy is for both people who are oppressed by white supremacy to kick these white supremacists off of their land. Africans need to kick white supremacists off their continent, and the brown people need to be kicking these white supremacists off of their continent. The Bible itself says, covet not thy neighbor's house. So if these Christians really believe in their Bible, why are they in their neighbor's house? Why is the government predominantly ran by them and not Indians and Mexicans? Because they don't really believe in they know what the Bible says, but they're not really following it. And there's nothing that Mexicans can really push back on, because Mexicans be going to the same white supremacist seminary school, that black folks be going to. Both of us is being lied to. Both of us, Phoenicians and Mesoamericans, we both been being lied to by these people. But thank God for this dude. I rock with Europeans that tell the truth or that show the truth. But at the same time, this dude might be one of the ones that came up with that saying, if you want to hide something from the Negro, put it in a book. Maybe he didn't put this information in a book for us to actually see it and get a clear understanding of what's going on in the Bible. Maybe that wasn't his intention. I don't know. All I know is it's there in the book, and I'm looking in his book, and his book is pointing at African territory. And I'm going to show you why I say his book, the Strong's Concordance, the Hebrew Chaldee Dictionary, is pointing at African territory. Because we know that ham is an English word. So right here, like I said, you're going to have people in the conscious community telling you ain't no such thing as no ham. Ham didn't exist. Ham didn't exist. But the question is, why do you think the ham is an individual? Did you look at what all of these English words mean in them people language over there in this territory, in this Genesis chapter 2, verse 13 territory? They wasn't speaking English over there. Did you go look behind these words? What is a ham? 2526 is the tag number. 2526 is pronounced calm. The same as 2525, hot. So there's no such thing as hot. This ain't even pertaining to a person. Hot from the tropical habitat. Hey, let me ask you a question. Is this a tropical habitat? Is the place we call Egypt, is that a tropical habitat? What about all the way down there in this Naphtali territory that we're calling Ethiopia, was it Sudan, all of this down here? Is this a tropical territory? These people up here telling you it ain't no such thing as ham, they don't even know what they're saying. Are you telling us that there is no such thing as a hot tropical territory? Oh, I know what you're saying. It ain't no such thing as a man named Ham. Well, possibly you might be right because the white man told you that part. But what does it really mean? A son of Noah, right? But what does this word Noah mean? And what does this English word son and what does this English word Noah mean? I'm not going to get into it because it'll take me off the subject. But y'all, when y'all see this word Noah, y'all thinking about them Hollywood movies. Y'all not looking at this like, man, I wonder what that word means according to the people in this Genesis chapter 2:13 territory. Is it really about a man that built an ark and put, animals 2 by 2 on it, like the white supremacist seminary school, Sunday school has been teaching us? Is that really what that means? Or do it mean something else? Their country. Or their country. Ham. So you're telling me that there is no such thing as this country that's hot and tropical? So when I hear y'all talk about ain't no such thing as ham, I'm not even hearing y'all because I feel like y'all don't know what y'all talking about. Y'all ignorant. Y'all haven't studied it. Reggie, who even poor brother. I'm gonna tell you something that was real frustrating, man. To see brother Sekou going at Captain Tazariak about Hamites. I was like, and I didn't have an issue with Sekou going against Captain Tazariak about Hamites. I had an issue with the way that Sekou was going at Captain Tazariak about Hamites. He did not tell Captain Tazariak, do you know that English word ham refers to the Northeast African territory, that it refers to land, a tropical territory? It doesn't pertain to an individual. Everybody in this territory, everybody that lived in this hot tropical territory is a ham. It's not an individual. And we're not even going to talk about the so-called curses because the curse don't even apply to these people. The curse applied to the son of Ham called Canaan, but y'all don't even know what a Canaan is. At any rate, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'm dealing with this word ham first because I'm eventually going to tie it all together. I've already touched on it a little bit, how, Phoenicians were making connections with these people in Mesoamerica before the ships of Columbus. I've already showed the connections and the correlations, the language, the writing on the walls of the pyramids, the worship of the sun. That is what they're doing in this territory. Then, of course, they didn't call it the sun. It's worship of the Aten. When the Phoenicians came and they still trying to follow the ways of their African ancestors, or at least the ones that was rocking with the African side of their family and not the Indian side of the family, not the Asian side of the family, not the Caucasian side of the family. The Phoenicians that were still rocking with their ancestors, their African ancestor side of the family, they took that name or that word Aten and they came up with the word that you see in Psalm 68:4, the word Yah or Jah. It's just a spinoff from the word Ra. Some generations later, after the word Ra, and then before Ra, you have Aten, then you get Ra, because, the Greeks is in the territory, but the ones that was really rocking with the African side of their family, they come up with the word Yah, Y-A-H, referring to the sun, he who rides upon the clouds. So Ham is a tropical territory. It's a hot tropical habitat. Obviously the country of a people. Make sure I'm looking at the right. So it said 2525. Let me see if I got that. That's 2552. I don't know why I got 2552. What is 2552? I don't know why I missed the other one, but I know that this is still an extension of Ham. Root, to be hot, warm, hot, heat, inflaming. This word refers to a territory. It refers to a land. It doesn't refer to an individual. So sons of Ham is talking about the men from this land, the men of Northeast Africa, because sons is a masculine, is a word for the masculine. So obviously it's talking about not just one person. It's talking about all of the sons out of this area. And all of the sons that were in this area didn't just stay in this area. They start out in Natapliah. They working their way down. They migrating down the Nile River. They done, built up Kemet. What is this? All right, I already did that. So in the professor James Hope Felder's original African Heritage Study Bible, he outlines, the so-called sons of Ham. Descendants of Ham were Cush, Mitzrayim, Put, and Canaan. But I'm just focusing on Ham, Cush, Mitzrayim, and Canaan. So we done already dealt with Ham. We know that this is not an individual. This word refers to the land and the people that was in the land. And like I said, these people, these sons out of this mother African territory were not just staying in this territory. You see this right here where that says Cush. So I want to deal with that real quick. This one here. All right, so it says a son of Ham, right? But 3568. I want to I've already showed it. This is the territory, because when you get into, if you look at some other Bibles in Genesis chapter 2:13, it doesn't say Ethiopia, it says Cush. It's really talking about this same area right here, Natapliah. So not only was there sons up here in Ham, there was also sons down here in Cush. Cush is not an individual, but I'll deal with the definition of this word in a second, because I done went through all my slides, so I got to load up some more. So I'm going to take this out, take this out. I'm going to leave James Strong's in there. Guess I do my. All right, so I'm dealing with Kush right quick. So we've already dealt with Ham. We know that Ham is not an individual. It's referring to people that was occupying that Northeast African territory. And Kush, I've already showed y'all what Kush is. Kush is actually the territory. I forgot something. I forgot something. Where is it? Where is it? Yeah, let's show this real quick. All right. So it says in the Bible, Cush, also spelled with a K, primarily refers to the ancient region of Nubia, located directly south of Egypt, in what is now northern Sudan and southern Egypt. I'm having to show this because earlier I was just saying that this area right here where Naphtali is, this is where Cush was at. This is where biblical Cush. This is the biblical Ethiopian territory. This is the territory that the Bible talking about. I just said that, but folks be wanting, they sources and all like that. So the quickest source is, just run on Chat GPT because I don't have no encyclopedia here with me. But it's always been known that is where Cush, biblical Cush, is been or is. So at any rate, so now you see where Cush is. And the reason why Cush is important is because the biblical narrative is saying that this Cush is the son of Ham, and Ham is Kemetic territory. So we're talking about Kemetic citizens that migrated from out of the Kemetic territory in the south, which is Cush, Mitzrayim, which is still basically the Kemetic territory, but it's another territory as well, and I'm gonna get into that. Put is in the territory where Libya is, which is west of Kemet or Egypt, and then there's Canaan. According to the biblical narrative, these are all related. Ham had sons. The sons is Cush, Mitzrayim, Put, and Canaan, meaning that this land, this Kemetic, this Cushite territory is responsible for the habitations in these areas. So what does Cush mean? Now that we see where it's located, but what does it mean to those people in that particular territory? So according to the professor, according to the James Strong's Exhaustive Concordance in the Hebrew Chaldee Dictionary, this English word Cush, the first time it shows up is in Genesis chapter 10, verse 6. The tag he put on it is 3568. 3568, Cush, or Ethiopia. And we know that it's talking about Africa because I showed y'all the maps already. I showed you the 1611 map that showed upper and lower Ethiopia. It was all garbled. So somebody tried to make a more cleaned up version of it, showing you that Ethiopia is sub-Saharan African territory. Even though another map is showing you that lower Ethiopia is in the territory where Morocco and Libya and so-called Egypt is. The original 1611 map is showing you that Africa was called Upper and Lower Ethiopia, and the more cleaned up version of the map was showing you that Ethiopia was sub-Saharan Africa. But either way, this word Cush is referring to an African territory. I'm leading up to the Phoenicians and how it is these people over here in the Western Hemisphere, how they had connection with Africans. I'm basically leading up to prove why these people were worshiping the sun like people over here in Northeast Africa. I'm leading up to prove why these people were writing on the walls of their pyramids like these people over here in Northeast Africa. Their writing system, how it was influenced by these people over here in Northeast Africa. So now y'all know what the word Cush is. Cush is not an individual. It's referring to a territory and the people that's in the territory. Cushites, or as history would call them, Nubians, or Reggie want to try to flim flam and scam people and try to do a magic trick by the actual word for the people was Taseti. Yeah, okay. We still know that we're talking about Northeast Africans. I don't really put too much stock in these words and these names anymore. I'm more focused on the territory. Just because the place is called Ethiopia does not mean that it's not talking about African territory. And just because the people are known as Nubians or Cushites does not mean that we're not talking about African people. So stop trying to flim flam. Stop trying to be a house nigga teaching field niggas misinformation, trying to divert people away from who they are and what they're supposed to be doing on this planet as God's resurrecting on earth. Reggie, Garfield, Ankh. Y'all really starting to look like some house niggas in this black YouTube space, in this pro-black YouTube space, calling people all kind of pseudos, character assassinating the field niggas because your master don't want the field niggas to have a voice. And you gonna be the house nigga, the silence people voice, huh? You gonna be the house nigga, to do the field niggas like them house niggas did Marcus Garvey, right? Unbelievable, man. The mess is sad. To be quite honest, man, I really feel like the three of y'all need to be excommunicated from the pro-black community. I don't think no pro-black people should be supporting y'all. Maybe no pro-black people are watching y'all. Maybe no Phil niggas is really watching y'all. Maybe all of the people that's watching y'all is other house niggas that y'all went to school with. because nothing that you're teaching is leading us out of this white supremacist construct and leading us into a position to where we can be in control of our own destiny, where we're not always dependent on foreigners to do for us, where we're not always crying about how unfair they have been to us. They're not allowing us to sit at their table. They're not allowing us to rise up in the ranks of leadership inside their white-owned companies. Always begging. That's what FBA stand for forever begging Americans. Don't stand for no foundation, no Black Americans. They stand for forever begging white Americans. Got all this damn education, all this wisdom. We got masters of science. We got masters of technology. We got masters of engineering. We got masters of mathematics. We got masters of agriculture among us Black folks. But for some reason, we can't do what the Pilgrims did. Actually, not even colonize nobody's land, just return home to the land of our ancestors and build a reality for ourselves. The Pilgrims came over here and the pioneers came over here and swindled people out of their land to build a reality for themselves. But we can't use our education and our knowledge and our talents to build a reality for ourselves and our ancestors' land. Why can't we do that? Because we got these modern day house niggas like Ankh and Reggie and Garfield, always calling people pseudos and character assassinating them because they don't want the Phil niggas to listen to another Phil nigga. That's what that is. But at any rate, Kush is not an individual. It's a territory in the territory of sub-Saharan Africa. So the next name we're going to deal with, should we deal with, no, we're going to deal with Canaan first. Let's deal with Canaan. We'll deal with Mitzrayim later. So, according to the professor, James Strong's, this English word Canaan, it shows up for the very first time in Genesis chapter 9, verse 18. He tags it with 3667. 3667. It is pronounced Canaan. Humiliated. A son of Ham, or sons of those that came up out of the Kemetic territory. Living where? They're living over here in this territory. The sons of Ham, or the masculine energies that migrated over here into this territory. And you see up there where it say Phoenicia, because history shows us that that's really what this territory is. This is Phoenician territory, but the biblical term is called Canaan. But the Bible is showing you that these sons that come up out of Ham, out of the land of Ham, are over here in Canaan. Now, why is the Bible saying cursed be Canaan? Because in this ancient African territory, in this Northeast African territory, in Africa period, they did have a bloodline law. They did not believe in marrying foreigners. At least the original ancestors didn't believe that. The original admonishment of the elders was to not marry foreigners, to not mix bloodline with foreigners, to not make babies with foreigners. And the reason why that's going out is because they know that their land is on the border where foreigners are. The ancient East Indians are on that border. The ancient Asians are on this border. The ancient Caucasians are on this border. This right here, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the midst of the garden. This is the garden. This is the garden of Africa is Eden. The garden that's planted east of Eden is this territory right here, where the other borders are touching Africa. Let me show y'all something real quick too. I just thought of something. Check this out. Look at Africa, right? You know, I know I'm leading up to we were talking about boats and stuff like that and the evolution of boats. You know, when boats go through an evolution, they are no longer boats, they become ships. But before ships, I want y'all to look at Africa really close. And it's like and see that there was really only one way to get into this territory, and that's up here in the Northeast African territory. The only way to have access to Africa was through the Northeast, because the rest of it is really technically surrounded by water. The Mediterranean, in order to get into Africa, you had to cross the Mediterranean. And then there's the Atlantic Ocean over on the west coast of it, and then on the south of it, and then even over on the east, you know, the Red Sea. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't easy to get into this territory. Look at how enormous this continent is. But look how hard it is to get into it. You might have been able to access it, you know, down here around can't really tell. Is that Kenya? Is that Kenya territory? Tanzania area? You might have been able to access it down here in Tanzania because, you know, the water ain't that far. You know, you probably could have, you know, did a little boat thing right there. But the point that I'm making is in the very beginning, it was not easy to access this territory. So that is understandable why they would have a law, you know, warning their citizens about marrying foreigners. I mean, this land is set up like that for a reason. Is that cosmic order? Is cosmic order the reason why, you know, Africa is not, it's a large body of land, but it's not easily accessible? I don't know, but that's just one thing that I noticed, that it's almost like how the heart is, you know, how the heart, you know, has those ventricles where the blood comes into it. You know, that's the only way that blood can get into the heart is through those ventricles and everything. And it gives me that same type of understanding. It's like Africa is the heart of this planet. And you can only come into the heart, you know, through these ventricles right here. And what comes into the heart, you know, is actually, you know, being guarded, you know, because you don't want to have a heart attack. You know, you getting all kind of junk in your heart. Next thing you know, you got heart disease, and now your heart's dying, and now you dead. And it's like that with the planet. You know what I'm saying? This Africa is the heart of this earth that was created by the universe. Africa contains children of the universe. Children of the universe are gods on earth, manifestations of the universe on earth. And just like the heart is keeping us alive, the purpose of the citizens on this continent is to keep the entire planet alive and in order and healthy. If you got an unhealthy heart, your body is unhealthy. That's the reason why hell is on earth right now, because the heart is unhealthy. Africa is unhealthy. The children don't even know who they are. And when you get a physician showing up trying to heal the heart, now you got to deal with these modern day Judas Iscariots like Garfield, Unc, and Reggie that want to, you know, try to call some of the Phil niggas that's trying to teach their people something, want to character assassinate them and call them all kind of pseudos and liars and whatnot. At any rate, so I was talking about Canaan. Like, what does Canaan mean? We was reading the definition, but notice how that word humiliated is italicized. Why would these people be humiliated? Is it because of them being on the borders and always, you know, having border wars with the Indians, the Asians, the Caucasians, you know, trying to keep these foreigners out of their ancestors' land because, you know, there's a law in the land that, you know, we're not supposed to be mixing with those people. The word is called Nazarite. Separatist. Nazarite means separatist, to be set apart. Were they humiliated because they were unable to, you know, do what they were expected to do to protect the border? Genesis 6 talks about the sons of God saw the daughters of men and that they were fair. And that, I bet you that's the reason why Garfield, Unc, and Reggie be coming at me. I bet you they like sleeping with white women. That's the only reason I can see them giving me smoke. There's 4 people that give me smoke. Homosexual men give me smoke because I teach against homosexuality among men. white supremacists don't like me because I'm always, talking about, how we not supposed to be under white supremacist rule. And they feel like I got a chip on my shoulder when I teach that, that we supposed to do what Marcus Garvey told us to do. We supposed to be, self-reliant. Freedom means, self-reliance. We can't be dependent on foreigners to have our best interests. So those two people, homosexual men, white supremacists, who else I be catching smoke from? Oh yeah. And these people, that like mess around with other races, mainly Caucasians, like making babies with Caucasian men and Caucasian women. Dudes that, rather marry, foreign women before they marry their own women. And then and not even thinking about the situation that they're putting their children in, because that law is in the air. The law of our ancestors is flowing through the air. That law is in Caucasians. There are Caucasians that don't like race mixing. There are Asians that don't like race mixing. There are Indians that don't like race mixing. There are Mesoamericans that don't like race mixing. That's because our ancestors, their last breath is in the atmosphere, flowing through the atmosphere. And so when you break that law, you're putting your children in a situation where they're having to bump into that on a daily basis. Because I'm biracial, African and Caucasian, in some areas, I keep running into people telling me that I'm the result of an unrighteous union. You half African, half Asian. You over in Asia, as a biracial Asian, and you're running into Asians that's making you feel a certain type of way about you being a biracial person. But because of the selfishness of your parents or the ignorance of your parents. Now you're in hell having to deal with these people that don't like the fact that you are biracial. Same thing with East Indians or with Mesoamericans. You half black, half Mexican, and you catching all kind of negative energy from the Hispanic side of your family because you biracial. You mix with black folks. You're mixed with black folks because of the ignorance of your parents, because your parents were selfish. We're not talking about hating other races because they're other races. We're talking about the natural order of things, the original cosmic order of the planet. There's a reason why there are different types of races on the planet. There's a reason why there's different types of bears. There's a reason why there's different types of birds. I mean, they're all birds, but there's different types of birds. They're all bears, but they're different types of bears. And the same thing with the human race. There's all different types of humans in this race, but there's different types of human races. And just like the birds, the different types of birds in the bird race naturally don't mix. And just like the bears in the bear race, they don't mix. It's supposed to be the same thing with man, who's supposed to be the wisest one on the planet, but it's like the animals seem to be like they more wiser than us. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why biracial children be catching that energy, because if anybody's going to correct the problem, it's going to be those of us that's catching this work from members of our family, that's getting on our case because of something our mother and our father did. It's like there's this energy that wants us to repent of what it is our mothers and fathers did and want us to teach everybody that, look, this is wrong. No child should have to go through this. No biracial African Caucasian child should have to be going through this. Maybe our parents should not have done this. No biracial African Asian child should be going through this. Maybe our African Asian parents shouldn't have done that. No biracial African Indian child should be going through this. Maybe our African Indian parents should not have done that. It reminds me of that one scripture, man, in Psalm chapter, 55, where it says, I was born in my mother's sin and shaped in iniquity. And another scripture that says, there is a way that seemeth right unto man, but the way thereof is the way of death, polluting the bloodlines. You got your Indians, you got your Asians, you got your Caucasians, and then you got your Africans. All of them is supposed to have pure bloodlines. But the end of a pure, perfect bloodline is when folks think that it's okay to mix these bloodlines. At any rate, I'm getting off subject, man. Because I'm still trying to show Garfield that the Phoenician ships were coming over here, bro. And you talking about show some writing systems. It showed you, I showed you earlier where it talks about the phonetic writing system of the Mesoamericans. Where did they learn that phonetic writing system? Of course, it developed in their culture, you know, because obviously these Phoenicians are involved in trade, so they're not staying in the land to be teachers of these people, but they're teaching these people a way to communicate. You got to be able to communicate with the people that you're trading with. All right, so I actually got on a tangent because I was trying to explain this word humiliated. Why would these people here in this particular territory, why would this word Canaan mean humiliated? Because bloodlines was being polluted in that territory. That's the reason why Canaan is cursed. These sons of Africa who come out of from a law that says don't make marriages with foreigners, they making marriages with foreigners. Their daughters are being taken by the foreign men, and then these dudes is taking the daughters of the foreign men. So now the bloodline is polluted. So I feel like that's why humiliated is italicized here, or that's the reason why the Bible says cursed be Canaan. So I don't think I have 3665. I missed that. So one thing I do want to point out is that this area Canaan is the same territory as Phoenicia, where the Phoenician ships was coming from. How was they getting from Northeast Africa all the way over to here into this Mayan territory? How was these Phoenician ships, and once again, this territory is African territory. You had what they refer to as admixtures in here, but you still got African culture, ancient African culture that comes out of the Nile Valley. You still have that culture here. Even though, you know, the dynasties of Kemet are long gone, their bloodline is still in this territory. This bloodline that comes out of the Nile Valley territory, out of the Ethiopian territory, out of upper and lower Ethiopia, out of Africa, that bloodline didn't just vanish. It's up here, but it's mixing with these Indians, Asians, and Caucasians. And when you're looking at these definitions, you see that they're still hanging on to Kemetic culture. Some of them there's a percentage of them that's still hanging on to Kemetic culture, because that word Yah that you see in the Bible, Psalm chapter 68, verse 4, it's a reference to the sun. So they was not worshiping the invisible man. Even the Phoenicians were still giving honor to Yah, the Most High, or the sun, the Aten, or whatever it was the Mesoamericans was calling it. But how did these people in Northeast Africa get all the way over here to Maya to teach these people about sun worship, to teach these people how to build mounds like pyramids, to teach these people a writing system? These people writing on the walls of the pyramids, writing glyphs on the walls of the pyramids. Well, like I said, there's this evolution of boats. They want to talk about boats. You talking about you can't sail from Africa on no boats. Well, they wasn't on boats at that particular time. Boats had evolved by the time the Phoenicians showed up. Boats had evolved by the time these people with African bloodline connected to Kush started sailing on these boats with sails. Remove some of these slides. I probably should have removed those. Remove this one. Do it like this. So, how did these people over here in Northeast Africa sail all the way over to here? I'm really not paying too much attention to this red line just right now because technically, all right, y'all see where the Maya civilization is, right? What I'm wanting to point out is this. Not everybody knows about Pangea, but Pangea is important, is a important topic of this discussion because at one particular time, all of the continents was together. It's just one big landmass, right? But then I don't want to get too into how or why the continents started separating because that's a whole nother discussion. I'll probably get into that another time. But what I'm trying to show is that continental drift started before continental. This is before continental drift. This is like Pangea, right? This is this very first one here on the left. It represents Pangea, like with all the continents together. And then the continental drift is a very slow process. It's not something that just happened overnight. But what I'm focusing on is this third image right here, where South America is not that far from Africa. And what I'm wanting y'all to look at it on this third image of the earth is where the Mediterranean is located and where this area is located. Canaan. Look at this third image of the beginning stages of continental drift. And you see, you can pretty much see where Phoenicia was or where Canaan was. These people setting sail on ships. They're coming across the Mediterranean and look at where they're emptying out. They come across the Mediterranean. They come across this small portion of the Atlantic. And this is where they're coming out at. They're landing into the central part of America. They're landing right in this area. That's the connection right there, Garfield. They didn't have to travel all of this. This is like the latter stages, the way latter stage of continental drift. During the beginning stages of continental drift, this third image of the earth right here, we're not talking about the fourth image of the earth, because your PhD talking about ain't no way in the world you can come from Africa on no boats. We're not talking about boats, bro. Here's some examples of the Phoenician ships. And we know that these ships existed because you can see inscriptions. You can see inscriptions of ships. It wasn't even just the Phoenicians. I believe there was even the Assyrians. The Assyrians even had ships. But look at these ships, man. So because they were using these large oars, these large paddles paddle their boats or to paddle their ships. I mean, because they had these large paddles to row, like row your boat. You're trying to make us believe that these types of boats could not make a trip from when the continental drift was like this, where Africa was really close to the Americas. You're wanting us to believe that the Phoenicians were not able to make contact with the Mayans on these types of ships. Not when the continents was this far apart, Garfield. When the continents were only this far apart. You and your PhD friend up there want us to believe that these people from the Northeast African territory was not coming over here and connecting with the Mayans, trading with the Mayans. Let me show you something also. Let me show you something. Oh, matter of fact, I might be jumping the gun. But I'm still gonna show this. Yeah, I'm jumping the gun. I'm jumping the gun with this one. Jumping the gun with that. Let me remove that. I'm gonna get to that later. I'm gonna get to that. There was another one I was wanting to show though. Check this out, y'all. Where that mug at? This is Genesis chapter 42, verse 5, right? And the sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came from the famine for their, I'm sorry. And the sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. Famine was in the land of Canaan. So if there's famine in the land of Canaan, where is they getting their corn from? Is it possible that they sailed on these Phoenician ships out of this Phoenician territory across this area during the beginning stages of continental drift to get corn from these Indians over here? Garfield. See, this is the problem when y'all understand the Bible according to white supremacist narratives, instead of looking at this book with African lenses and understanding African history. That's the problem with y'all. Famine was in the land of Canaan. And these folks want us to believe that these Phoenician ships was not sailing over here before Christopher Columbus, man. All right, so we done dealt with Canaan. We dealt with Ham. We talked about what a Ham was. We dealt with Cush. We talked about what a Cush was. We just talked about a Canaan, what a Canaan was, and why that word humiliation. Because, you're going to have people like, it wasn't no such thing as Canaan, but there was a humiliation that happened with these African men that was up in here. That word Israel, the definition for Israel means he shall rule as God. Meaning that these sons of Ham, or these sons that come out of Northeast Africa that was living over here in this Canaan territory, they was in charge of this, but they got humiliated. They was unable to do what their family in Africa was expecting them to do, which was to maintain that border. I was in the Navy. I know what was going down. You on them ships for days at a time, months at a time, you going into foreign territories, you ain't had no booty in a minute. Meanwhile, your mother's African voices in your head saying, of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of thereof. Meaning, or Joshua chapter 23, don't make marriages with them. Deuteronomy chapter 7, don't give your sons to their daughters. Don't give your daughters to their sons. The story of Samson and Delilah. His mom and his dad was like, yo, why you can't find a woman from among your own people? Why you got to be going to mess around with these foreign women? And you see what happened to him, right? That's a metaphor of what happened to Africa. And then the other one, Ezra chapter 9, Ezra chapter 10. You got all of this information from your moms in your head, you know, telling you, the son of God, stay away from the daughters of man. But you see the daughters of man. You see that Indian woman. You see that Asian woman. You see that Caucasian woman. You've been on the water for a minute and just like, man, I know what my mama said, but okay, I'll get off subject. All right, so what was I getting ready to show? Okay, yeah, like I said, we talked about what a ham is. It's not an individual person. We talked about what a Cush really is. It's not an individual person. We talked about a Canaan. Canaan is not an individual person. These are nations of people, nations of men and women in Africa, out of Africa. The so-called curse is pertaining to these African men that was unable to obey what their mamas told them. They was unable to keep their black D in their pants. And then they making babies with these foreigners. And then ultimately these foreigners gain access to Africa. And now Africa's in the situation it's in today with their resources getting robbed by these doggone foreigners that came in a long time ago. All right, so now we dealt with Ham, dealt with Cush, dealt with Canaan. Now we need to deal with Mitzrayim. It's like, what does that word Egypt mean? According to the professor. Pull the professor back up so folks know who I'm referencing. Because now we're talking about Egypt. Done. All right. So once again, Professor James Strong's, we're dealing with the word Egypt. Egypt is an English word, and according to the professor, 4714, that's the tag that he put on this English word. So in that ancient time, the word is Mitzrayim. Dual of 4693, Mitzrayim, Upper and Lower Egypt. Egyptian, Mitzrayim. But the question I have is, are we positive that Upper and Lower Egypt is it actually over in Africa? Are we positive that Upper and Lower Egypt is not North America and South America? Because Egypt is an English word. Nobody was calling that territory over there in Northeast Africa, Egypt. But we need to take into consideration what we saw with the Phoenician ships during the time when continental drift was at its beginning stages, and the West Hemisphere was not that far away from Northeast Africa. You have these two cultures making contact with each other via these Phoenician ship voyages. So can we honestly say that biblical Egypt is in Africa? When y'all see me on Sonetta's platform, there has been many a times where y'all heard me say that biblical Egypt and Kemet is not one and the same. That Egypt was actually over here in the Americas. You know, that Kemet, biblical Kemet, or not biblical Kemet, biblical Egypt is not Kemet. That biblical Egypt was actually over here in the West. And this is the reason why I say that. But just because biblical Egypt was over here in the West, that does not mean that there wasn't a cultural influence. There wasn't it doesn't mean that there was not a cultural exchange going on between these two, between these in the Northeast and these over here in the West. But this is the definition for the English word. This is the pronunciation in the English. This is the pronunciation and definition for the English word Egypt. This is what it means. So I just made a claim, right, saying that biblical Egypt and Kemet, they're not one and the same. That Kemet is the place where the pyramids of Giza are. And then Egypt, Lower Egypt, is where you find these pyramids around that Mayan territory, down there around Peru and all like that. But let's look at some more definitions for Egypt, because there's another one here, 4693. 4693, Matsur, the same as 4692 in the sense of a limit, as the border of Palestine, besieged places, besieged. Do y'all know what that means? What was that word that we saw under the definition of Canaan? It said humiliated. Is this to say that, and I know I had jumped the gun when I showed that one scripture about, you know, there was a famine in the land and they went, you know, to get corn out of Egypt, or there was corn in Egypt. Humiliation is attached to the word Canaan. Cursed is attached to the word Canaan. And now when we look at this word that's attached to Egypt, you see the word besieged places. And it's like, well, who got besieged? Is this definition saying that, you know, when them African, you know, when them Phoenicians, you know, was making their voyages over here to the West, and they were quite possibly even, you know, picking brothers, you know, from that territory up, you know, putting them on the Phoenician ships and bringing them back over here to this territory. And, you know, the way that those Egyptians was doing things was probably a little bit more hectic. It was, they probably had a culture or a way of life that was, you know, not anything that we were used to. You know, maybe these people were like more barbarian like, because, you know, I'm always making a difference between people with straight hair and people with wool hair, that these people from here below, these are earth animals. Those of us that were created by the universe, we are the gods. Earth animals are man. or mankind, and then those of us that were developed or created by the universe, we are biblical God. We are the Elohim. You know, we live by a standard. We are a civilized people, whereas these people over in the West probably wasn't a civilized people. And that's probably the reason why we saw words like humiliated and besieged, because we invited the enemy and we invited foreigners into our house against what our mothers was telling us. We bringing these folks back on our ships, and our mothers was telling us not to do that. The black woman is God. The black women in that territory, they was God. And the sons of God saw the daughters of man that they were fair and made wives with them. And then it talks about them children became giants, not giants like fee, fi, fo, fum, but just giants because, you know, their overtake, they were probably, like this word say, besieged. You got to take up a defense. You got to build a fortress. You got to fortify this place, man. These people overrunning us. Maybe that's what was going on, right? What's the next definition? 4692. Something hemming in, a mound of besiegers. That word mound, that's significant. Of besiegers. What is that saying? Is that saying that the ones from these mounds over here was launching, you know, a besiege on the mounds over here in the Northeast? You know, is this word, you know, saying, was it not that one? No, it was this one. Is this word saying that these folks from over here was humiliating these ones over here? Is that what this definition is alluding to? A mound of besiegers. Besieged these folks over here, probably. All right, so what's the next one? Oh, okay, so 4714. We already looked at that definition, didn't we? 4714. But there's another definition for Egypt that I noticed in the New Testament. If you look all the way down here at the bottom, right? So all of these ones up here, this 4714, these are all of the words for Egypt in the Old Testament. But then you get into the New Testament, right? And his mother and flee into Egypt, right? Look at that, 125. Right? Look at this definition. Adam Dan. This word Egypt here in the New Testament has a different definition. And it says Adam Dawn. Yo, now check this out. What color are the citizens here in the Western Hemisphere? What was they referred to? What happened in Washington, D.C. with that football team? What did they call that football team in Washington before they was called the Commanders? You see what I'm saying? This is the other connection between Northeast Africa and the West. These people over here were considered red Indians or red people. You can look at some of their artwork. Let me see if I got some of their artwork somewhere. Let me see. Pull this down. Let's see if I can find at least one depiction of their artwork. Is this it? What's this? You see this right down here? That's not clear enough. Let me see if I can find another one. I gotta find a bigger one. But you can see this right here. This one right here, this Tonatiuh, the sun god specifically associated with the fifth sun and the daytime sky, is often depicted as the center of the famous Aztec sunstone. But you notice that there's a redness there, right? Let me see if I can find a better one, man. So Mesoamerican art. Ancient Mesoamerican. Yeah, this is more like it. Check this out. So let's go back to that definition for Egypt. Down here at the bottom in the New Testament, Matthew 2:14. This Egypt has a different definition from the other Egypts in the Old Testament. And remember, there was that, I'm gonna show you the scripture in a minute, but look at this. 125, Adam dawn from 119, reddish. And this is old ancient Mayan art. And I'm like, what is this supposed to be? Is this supposed to be us coming from Africa meeting with them? Is this supposed to be Phoenicians coming in and meeting the red people over here in the West? It's like, what is that? I mean, because that's what it looked like to me. Kind of like that to me. But these folks is definitely depicted as red. And I'm like, okay, well, who is these brown folks? Most likely Phoenicians. Could be. I mean, based on everything that I'm looking at, I'm seeing a connection between Northeast Africa and West Hemisphere, Garfield. I just feel like there are white supremacists who are in control of territory they ain't got no business being in control of. They should not have no dealings with, or they should not be in control of their neighbor's land over here in the West. They should not be in any authority over these brown people here in the West. They should not be having any authority over Africans in Africa. They should be in their own home. The universe intended for them to be in the North Hemisphere. That is where they belong. They don't belong in the house of other people. They're not supposed to be in the homes of their neighbors, man. And see, I think that's all of it right here. Is that everything? Everything. Yep, that was everything. All right, so I'm done. I'm done with my my little presentation. Clear these out. Throw my track back up. Actually, let me put this one back up. Yeah, I'm in my feelings, man. He called me a liar in front of 600 some odd people, yo. And he got like 17,000 subscribers on his channel. And he telling everybody that I'm the liar. I'm the liar. I'm the pseudo. I think I proved the case. You up there talking about come up here. No, don't come up here. Don't come up here. You can't even make up your mind, bro. What you want folks to do. And then you're gonna charge me. Then you're gonna try to charge me $100 to come up and show people, another train of thought. While you up there calling the elder a pseudo, and I'm trying to, come up there and defend the elder. You won't let me come up, and the only way I can come up is if I pay you some money. Come on, man. But I understand. If you're in trouble with the law for scamming people, Yeah, I understand why you gotta run your bag up, Garfield. I understand that. But you ain't gonna get it from me though. You ain't gonna get that from me. You ain't gonna run your bag up off of me, bro. Hey Garfield, you know there's a scripture that say the love of money is the root of all evil. You love money, bro. You love the white man money, huh? You in love with it. I bet you like go to bed with it. You be all laid up close to it and hugging on it and kissing it at night. You love money, huh? You love the white man money. You don't want to have your own society that's not based on fiat currency. You don't want to have your own society that's based on the barter system where everybody that has a particular talent, like let's say I'm a farmer, right? And then you're an electrician. I don't know nothing about electrician and you don't know nothing about farming, but I'm going to feed you so you can do some electric work in my house. Ankh is a carpenter. He don't know nothing about farming, but I'm going to feed Ankh so he can build me a house. And then I'm going to feed you to put some electrical work in my house. Reggie is a plumber. He don't know nothing about farming, but I'm going to feed Reggie to do plumbing in my house. I'm going to feed Ankh to, build my house. I'm going to feed you to put electrical work in my house. You don't want to build a system that's like that, that's based on the people, the knowledge that people have. You want to stay in a white supremacist capitalist society and talk negatively to your brothers, talk down on your brothers, character assassinate your brothers, because that's what the white man, that's what your master wants you to do. Huh? I hope you're not a house nigga, yo. I mean, you giving me house nigga vibes, bro. Yo, peace, blessings, ancestors love dwelling in the light. Shine down on and in the lives of all the Creator's righteous children, resurrecting as gods on earth. Ancestors' protection be around y'all. Live righteous.